My phone rang at exactly 1:15 p.m. like a program running on a timer. Ethan Hart flashed across the screen, perfectly punctual in a way that would look sweet to anyone on the outside. I'm Mia Hart, 34, marketing director at a fintech company in Melbourne. 8 years of marriage taught me to live around Ethan's schedule, to accept that he ran on deadlines and numbers. And because he lived by numbers, I finally understood that 1:15 call wasn't affection. It was confirmation that I was where he needed me to be. You're at the office. Yeah? Ethan asked, his tone as light as a routine check. Yep. Just wrapped a meeting, I replied, calm to the point of frightening myself. The truth was, I was sitting in my car near Fitzroy Gardens, my hand crushing a bottle of water so hard my knuckles were white. I'd called in sick this morning, something I almost never did. Ethan gave a soft little laugh. Just checking in. Love you. I'll be home late tonight. Click. He hung up the way someone ends a task. For 3 months. Ethan had called at 1:15 every weekday. And it got stranger when I realized it started the very week I told him about a colleague's divorce. Her husband had cheated, and the whole marriage collapsed overnight. I still remembered Ethan's eyes pausing for half a beat. Then him changing the subject so abruptly, it set off an alarm in my head. My best friend, Zoe Newen, said it bluntly over drinks in a bar at South Bank. Mia, he's not calling because he misses you. He's calling to make sure you don't come home. They cover themselves with the one thing that looks harmless, something consistent. I'd defended Ethan back then. Told Zoe he was busy, stressed, working ridiculous hours. Zoe just looked at me like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, still trying to prove I was safe. Today I decided to test it. I'd sit in my car, answer the 1:15 call, and find out what Ethan needed space for. I drove to Ethan's office tower on Collins Street. His car was still parked in the building's reserved bay, exactly where it should be if anyone went looking. A detail so neat it felt deliberate. I walked into the lobby like a wife dropping something off, and reception greeted me by name. I asked casually, "He's got a partner lunch at Kingsley's today, doesn't he?" She nodded. That's what's in his calendar. I drifted past the assistant area and ran into Ben, Ethan's PA. I kept my voice mild, like it was nothing. Did he forget any documents? I was going to leave them on his desk. Ben hesitated, just a flicker, then said, The Kingsley booking was cancelled this morning. Ethan said, plans changed, and he'd be unreachable until 3. The word unreachable sounded rehearsed. I stepped into the lift, my face steady, but my mind reduced to one sentence. He isn't here. Back in my car. I opened the family location app, the one we'd set up years ago for emergencies. A blue dot glowed on the map. Sorrento, our coastal holiday place on the Mornington Peninsula. Ethan always said it was too far for a weekday. Not worth the drive. Strictly a weekend thing. Yet there he was. Midweek. At 1:15. Exactly when he'd just confirmed I was at work. I drove down the peninsula in a strange, numb clarity. No tears. No shaking. Just the cold focus of someone peeling tape off a wound because she needs to see it properly. I parked 2 houses away from our cottage. In the driveway sat a silver sedan that wasn't mine and wasn't Ethan's. I moved behind the coastal shrubs and looked through the big living room window, and I saw them. Ethan was pouring the exact wine I bought from the Yarra Valley. The woman on our sofa laughed with the comfort of someone who belonged there. And then my stomach dropped into the floor. Harper Lane, my sister-in-law, Liam Hart's wife, Ethan's younger brother's wife. Ethan pulled Harper in and kissed her. Not quick or panicked, but familiar, comfortable, the kind of kiss that said this wasn't new, familiar enough to use my things. Drink from our wedding crystal. Sit in the home I'd helped create, like she had every right to be there. I lifted my phone, photographed the silver car and its plate, photographed the 2 of them through the glass, and made sure the date and time were captured. I didn't storm in. I didn't give them the chance to turn me into the crazy one. I got back in my car and drove straight to Melbourne, saying one sentence to myself the entire way. If I want to win, I need evidence. If I want to survive, I need it to be legal. That night, Ethan came home and played the part of a perfect husband. He talked about the deal the client's lunch rescheduled. I watched his mouth move smoothly like an MC reading lines. When he went to shower, I opened my laptop and did the first thing I needed to do. I created a folder with the most boring name imaginable. Tax, 2025. Receipts. Into it I put everything. Number plate photos, the window shots, notes with times and locations, and a timeline I typed line by line. Wednesday, 1:15, call. 1:27, location shows Sorrento. 3:06, photos at the window. I wanted a straight line on paper, not a scream in my throat. The next morning I downloaded our joint bank statements and credit card records. I'd never scrutinized them before, because Ethan always said, I handle the money, you handle the house. I used to think that was teamwork. Now I saw it was control. The charges weren't huge. Not the sort of thing that jumps out instantly, but they were consistent and clean. A restaurant in Toorak, a boutique hotel in St Kilda, a jewellery shop at Chadstone, and a cafe near the peninsula that repeated like a signature 2 lattes. 2 pastries on the same days again and again. Not a mistake. A parallel routine. I asked Zoe to sit beside me, not to cry with me, but to witness what I was doing. She watched me log into the bank, export statements, download files. Then she dated and signed a note confirming she'd seen me extract those documents directly from the joint accounts. It sounded petty, but I wanted a trace from the beginning. So later no one could say I'd forged anything or invented it in revenge. Then I added another layer of objective evidence the way an Australian would. Toll records. The cars were on our shared account. So I accessed Linked, CityLink, pulled the tag history, and there it was. Weekday trips down towards the peninsula that matched the cafe charges. Matched the 1:15 calls. Matched the location data. I highlighted each entry. Built a comparison table. Date, toll, spending, 1:15 call, location. What used to be a feeling became a pattern. I couldn't forget something our neighbour in Sorrento had once said offhand. Your husband pops by during the day a fair bit. There's a lovely sister who brings lunch sometimes. Ethan didn't have a sister. I called my mother-in-law and used a fake excuse, an anniversary photo book. Mum, does Ethan have any sisters I should include? I'm putting together a family page. She laughed. No, love. It's just Ethan and Liam. So Ethan had told the neighbors Harper was his sister to normalize weekday visits. A lie in the right place lasts a long time, until it meets the one person who asks the right question. I met with a family lawyer, Marissa Tan, recommended by Zoe. Marissa was direct. Victoria is no-fault divorce. An affair doesn't automatically win you anything. But if he's hiding assets, shifting funds, moving money into a trust to dodge disclosure, that's different. You're doing the right thing. Collect evidence from things you're legally entitled to access. Don't install cameras. Don't record secretly. Don't do anything that makes you the one breaching the law. She gave me a checklist. Prove unusual financial movement. Prove intent to conceal. Prove the pattern. And keep your timeline airtight. Marissa brought in a forensic accountant. They didn't care about romance or betrayal, only money. And exactly as I suspected, they traced a series of small, quiet transfers from our joint investments into a holding account. Then onward into something that sounded harmless, Meridian Family Trust. Over 6 months. Nearly AUD 240,000. The accountant looked at me and said a sentence that iced my spine. This isn't spending. This is asset steering. By then, I had the affair, the alibi system, the schedule, the toll data, the spending, the trust. But I needed a final lever that Ethan couldn't cry his way out of. Compliance. Ethan worked in finance. The thing that would truly destroy him wasn't "my wife caught me." It was proof of ethical breach and risk to the firm. I arranged a meeting with Ethan's senior partner, Graham Bartlett, in the most normal tone I could manage, like someone trying to warn a business about a serious liability. I prepared a folder like a pitch deck. Page 1, a 1-page timeline. Page 2, the matching table. Toll's Cafe, 115 calls. Page 3, transfer records. Page 4, trust structure. Page 5, the silver car plate, and a short written note from the neighbor confirming a woman had been introduced as his sister, visiting weekdays. No explicit accusations, just facts. Graham read it, and his face strained. "I'm calling Ethan in tomorrow morning," he said. "Immediate suspension pending investigation. If this is accurate, termination is likely." I didn't go home that night. I stayed with Zoe. The next morning, at 9:30, Graham called me. "It's done. Ethan's been stood down. Access revoked. Devices requested." At 11, Marissa messaged, "Documents have been served. We're filing with an application to preserve assets." Ethan's calls came one after another. I sent a single line. "All communication through lawyers from now on." At 2 p.m., Zoe's doorbell rang. Ethan was outside, bloodshot eyes, crumpled shirt, the smell of alcohol even through the door. "Mia, I know you're in there. We need to talk." He pounded like he could hit time backwards. I stayed behind the door. Voice flat. Go home. Ethan, you've got it wrong. Harper isn't. Harper is Liam's wife, I cut in. And you called me at exactly 1:15 every day to make sure I wouldn't come home. You left your car at the office. You used tolls and timing like clockwork. You moved 240 grand into a trust. What do you expect me to believe? That you accidentally managed all of that? Silence. The silence of a man who's lost his script. I didn't open the door. I didn't give him the chance to turn it into a conversation he controlled. I said one final line. If you come back again, I'll call police and seek intervention as advised by my solicitor. I'm not fighting with yelling. I'm fighting with paperwork. That night I did the hardest, most necessary thing. I called Liam. I didn't dramatize it. I sent 3 items only. The number plate photo from Sorrento. A photo that clearly identified Harper in our holiday house. Nothing explicit. Just unmistakable. And the date and time timeline. Liam was quiet for a long time. Then said, "Rough. Are you sure?" I answered, "Yes. And you deserve the truth before they write a different story." The next morning, Liam texted, "Harper's lying. I've seen enough. I'm seeing a lawyer." I didn't feel triumphant. I felt the kind of justice that arrives late and heavy. At least I wasn't the only one being made a fool of. From there, everything moved the way we'd prepared. Marissa filed to freeze unusual movements, requested disclosure around Meridian Family Trust, demanded statements and structures, and set a negotiation timetable. Ethan hired representation and tried to frame it as marital conflict and called me controlling. But numbers don't have feelings. Toll records don't have feelings. Statements don't have feelings. Trust documents don't either. Ethan started backing down when he realized every argument only exposed more of what he didn't want a court to see. His firm terminated him after internal review. In finance, once ethical risk sticks to you, it clings. Harper took collateral damage too, Liam filed. And the fallout spread through both sides of the family like a fire no one could put out. Ethan swung between, "I'm sorry. Give me a chance. And you ruined me." Exactly like a man who wanted forgiveness and a scapegoat at the same time. I stopped responding. 6 months later, we signed the settlement. Because Ethan had shown signs of concealing and steering assets into a trust. The split was heavily in my favor. I kept the majority of savings, retained decision-making control over the Melbourne home, and I sold the Sorrento holiday place, the place that used to be our nest, to end the memories properly. I didn't celebrate with champagne. I celebrated with something smaller and more real. I slept through the afternoon without flinching at the sound of a phone. I moved jobs to a different company in Docklands. Better pay. Better hours. And most importantly, nobody managed my life through a daily check-in. Zoe moved closer to me. Liam went quiet for a long time. Then sent one message. "Thank you for telling the truth. If you hadn't, I would have lived inside a lie forever." I read it. Exhaled. And for the first time, my shoulders felt lighter. One late afternoon, I stood on the balcony of my new St. Kilda apartment. sea air stinging salt against my lips. Zoe lifted her juice and clinked it against mine. Does your name mean anything? Mia sounds gentle, but it's got bite. I laughed. It's got bite because it had to. My phone buzzed. Not 1:15. Not a location check. Just a message from someone I'd met through a work project, Nathan Tran. An architect who always asked, "Are you okay?" without needing to prove, "Where are you? I'm downstairs." No rush. Take your time. I looked at the screen and felt my throat warm. Zoe raised an eyebrow. I told the truth. Not love. Not yet. Just a decent, normal person. Zoe smiled. That's enough for a beginning. I turned off the lights, locked my door, stepped into the lift. For 8 years, I thought victory meant keeping the marriage intact. Now I understood. Victory was keeping myself without screaming, without breaking the law, without burning down my own life just to prove who was wrong. Ethan chose betrayal, calculation, and turning me into a dot on a map. I chose to step off his map, entirely through documents, logic, and a clean ending. And this time the ending wasn't missing. It was simply me moving forward, without needing anyone to call at 1:15 to give me permission to breathe.